on the other hand, Kronos ate his children. So that means that, like, in order to basically encapsulate us inside this fermented dome and to keep this perpetual cycle going on under the sleep spell of Kingu and the sleep spell of Leviathan, we're basically in a prison planet, and it's all being based upon like sacrifice. So the more that they basically deviate from the ideology of sacrifice, because we know that their time is up, because we at the end of the purification period of their system. So does that mean that by way of their factions of government, when they stop having the chances to do all these blood rituals and things of that nature, would that basically dematerialize the grid system or the firmament? Would that basically make heaven connect with earth again? Or is that what that basically implying?
Okay, so this is the operational instructions for the application of the spell of Kingu. This is the Greek description of them applying Kingu to trap us in the system, but we're not trapped by external forces. We in a stupor. We can't see in that with the eyes of God. We can only see with the eyes of man, because that's the purpose of this ritual, right? And the reason why they say Kronos eat his children is because he outlives them, because he's an eternal. But his children have to go through. They live eternity through reincarnation cycles. So if Kronos represents time, time is the as father time is Chrono, but we all know that the older version is mother time, which is Kalima. Right? So all these things happen and we become oblivious to it, and they keep it in print so that they can share it to each other, for each other to know, but we ain't supposed to know.
Facts.
That's why they say if you want to hide something from a ninja, put it in the book.
Yep.
Because we was traditionally oral disseminators of knowledge. We didn't do this with the secret squirrel, write it down and pass the note under the table, which became volumes and volumes. So they
hold on, Ryan. You can't hear you.
Once they put them in the back on.
Yeah, hold on for a second. Trying to wait till it catch up a little bit. All right.
Right. So once they start putting it in book form, then they can control the narrative of what you should study if you're a good person, and what you shouldn't study if you're a bad person. But when you get to the higher realms, there is no good people or bad people. They just people. When you get to the higher realms, there is no light-skinned people, dark-skinned people. They just people, because they're all represented by a light body. When you're in a light body, you don't have a race. You don't have an ethnicity. You have to take on physical form. And normally the form you take on is the prevailing genetics, if you are Etherian, of the surrounding culture. So if you want other cultures to be able to tap into, they call it tying into the vine, then they have to be also on the same geography as what we call the main line, the main bloodline. And this is your Mississippians, that all of these other tribes are tied in. They call it twigging. And then they call it the one drop of blood doctrine. Right? And where do you go to get the one drop of blood? You go to God's crucible. It's another epithet for America. Once you're in God's crucible, now you submerge in what's called the great melting pot.
Yep.
Right? Once you're in the great melting pot, the goal is catharsis. Right? So the most wicked people had to do the most wicked stuff to the most righteous people, because the most righteous people can take it better than everybody else. So when they put...
So that's mainly why... Go ahead, my bad.
Yeah, so this is why you seeing being played out in front of us. They
Mm-hmm.
playing it out in front of us to say, see, I told them they just didn't speak the language.
Mm. So that's mainly why the great majority, because a lot of people be like, well, why are we so, discriminated against? Because it's all, according to their blood contracts that they have. So where is this at? Okay.
You see this? The idea of an American vote is not much different
Yeah.
from other ideas about a chosen people.
Yeah, I see it.
Chosen people, including the Nazis, always have the right to perform blood sacrifices. Think about that for a minute. Now, the people that send our children to war don't send their children to war.
Right.
Why they don't send their children and why they send ours? See, it's whose hands is the blood on, and how can they use a cat's paw? They always using somebody else to do the dirt for them, so you won't never know who it is doing the dirt. This
Mm.
how they all of their isms, racism, sexism, casteism. This is why all of these isms work. They work on they manipulate your ignorance to their advantage, and then they compel you to defend your ignorance with pride.
They some dirty mofos, ain't they? And then we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
go.
Look, it said the method of reconciliation is always a process of myth making and fictionalizing. Those sacrificed in this way, it say those sacrificed in this way are always less, inferior, non-human, not like us. This is very similar to Reagan's notion of the evil empire, the Russian communists looting and raping American business. When America was financing Russia when it was communist the whole time. Most people don't know that.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. Wow.
Go back, you can pull up an almanac from any time before the wall fell. And the number one economic aid to the communist Russia was the United States.
Mm.
They was giving them billions of dollars a year. So let's go into the practice of blood sacrifice. Blow this up so that people can see it.
All right.
It's at the extent to which the blood sacrifice for practice is quite large. In fact, the types of people and the details of the various sacrifice would require volumes. Some examples from different parts of the world, then it goes into Abraham kills Isaac to create a new orientation for the Hebrews in Greek mythology. Agamemnon kills his daughter Iphigenia, so the winds can carry the Greek ships to rescue Helen and Troy. The idol god Molech cult sacrificed children by fire. The Germans had a covenant with their gods, which demanded not only animal and human sacrifice, but supported sacrifices for victories over their enemies and the sacrifice for funerals. So
Mm.
they just used the blood ritual to capitalize on us at every turn because we don't know we not protecting ourselves spiritually by selectively opting out of as many other rituals as we can, and we begin to wake up.
Mm. That
See,
basically comes.
then the power and the hold that the blood magic have starts to dissipate. But you got to be able to identify whether it's in the church, the mosque, or whether it's on Wall Street, or whether it's in DC, or whether it's in Hollywood. And what you see a lot of celebrities doing is actually telling on them. When you
Um,
see them celebrities doing, they actually telling on the people that's putting them up to it. This right here, they literally telling you the people running Hollywood, this is what they into. But
mm-hmm.
they dress it up in costume form to make it more palatable because most people don't believe it's going on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. and they call that, it's kind of like ceremonial magic. Call it the Govey. That was part of the. But I was looking for the part of the publication that talks about that. But we're gonna go back up here.
That's also the prefix of government too.
Mm. So, so this cult of Moloch, does this also apply to? Because I sent you this right here, and it talks about how the MIT explains why laws are written in an incomprehensible style, just as magic spells use special rhymes and archaic terms,
Archaic terms.
archaic terms, and signal the power and convoluted language. Legalese acts to convey a sense of authority. They include. Let me see. So, like I
Yeah.
said, so is that right? So, whether how they write these laws and governments and how it applies to, like, politics and things of that nature. So, whether they write it
Mhm.
in pen or paper, or whether they signing these contracts and signing over these bills or whatever, it's still an incantation because it's still Babylonian blood magic, correct? Because I said, like, whatever, you frozen.
You breaking up a little bit, D-Bat.
Okay, hold on. Let me get some of this stuff out the way. All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so does that basically apply to everything as far as, like, whether writing out a contract, you signing over your nature, whether if they signing certain laws and government, it's still a form of a blood sacrifice because they still writing it in blood, whether if they writing it in pen, pencil, or marker or whatever. Because what was you basically implying to that as far as it still being a blood magic incantation?
Okay, now look. When you go back, when you go and look at your signed and sealed documents, the
Mm-hmm.
ones that don't have what's called an embossed seal is normally a red seal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's red ink, it's not actual blood.
Right.
Because the foundational document is the secondary constitution written in the blood of Crispus Attucks that's kept in the George Washington Masonic Memorial,
Right.
right? So all they have to do now to maintenance it is to simulate it. And they simulate it by red ink and by a dead language.
Mm-hmm.
The dead language is the Latin that they use in order to write the legalese. And the legalese is written in the form where commoners don't know what you're talking about. But because the colloquial language is similar, because a lot of Latin went into the founding of English, a lot of ancient languages, Sanskrit, Latin, Greek, um, ancient Kemetic languages all go into making up the English language. So now to maintenance the spell, all they have to do is do so many seals in red ink.
Mm-hmm.
Almost anything come from the Supreme Court gonna have a red ink seal stamp,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's because that's the maintenance of the foundational document. But 2019, July the 4th, the contract ended,
Mm.
right? So now we not in the government. This right here, see what it says at the top?
Yep. The historical material frozen in time. This website is no longer updated, and links to external websites and some internal pages may not work. Executive orders. So it's basically freezing the de facto corporation, basically.
It's dead.
Yeah. Right.
It's now a defunct corporation.
Mm-hmm.
But the stage show got to play out until enough of the originals wake up to the fact that the stage show that's being played. This is why they blatantly put multiple actors in skin masks in front of people. They got the tall Donald Trump, the short, dumpy Donald Trump, the medium sized Donald Trump. You got 17 different Bidens. You got 3 or 4 different Kamalas, one of them a man,
Right.
right? And they doing it so obvious that we supposed to look at it now as it's a joke.
Right.
They pranking me, right? We on Ashton Kutcher punking us right now,
Right.
right? And
Gregory said it's
so
two
when
different.
only reason why the executive orders page of the government is not updated anymore because there's no more presidents to issue a true executive order. That's done.
Mm-hmm.
We we in the very ends of reconstruction of tribal law on the land, restoring back the ancient ways in a modern time. It had to be adjusted, and it took an adjustment period for people to understand what happened, so that they could see all that gloom and doom, them scare tactics. That's just to keep the loose in the air.
Mm.
And the loose serves as almost like a narcotic effect. This is why if you run up on a flock of sheep, they can't even run. If you run on them at them face on, you got to come from behind them. If you come at them face on while they facing you, they froze. They don't know what to do because the predators always attack them from the rear, right? But if you come up them at a side angle or back of them, they know to run, right? But if you come directly at them, they froze. They got a species of goat that literally freeze and turn stiff and fall over like he did when you run up on him.
Yeah, it's got it.
Right, right. So what they showing us here is that the United States government is truly gone, and that now the people need to wake up because the original people then reclaimed everything. Now we're just trying to get the tribes to remember who the F they are so that they can wake up from the slumber.
So
because that's Freudian slip.
So how can we actually do that? And when you have so many people within the infrastructure of democracy still trying to fight for reparations. So, because like I said, reparations is the carrot on the stick. Like, because when you participate in fraud, you can't claim injury to the system, right? So it's really going to put you under a jurisdiction again if you conform to those appellation titles of African American and Black. That ties you right back to the 14th Amendment. So how, as a collective, can we help people deviate from those ideologies, and let them know that, like, we didn't come, we've been here the whole time. And it's a lot of people who don't understand that, and how that also applies to ecclesiastical law and their factions of religion.
Well, one thing, by exposing what's being done to us, helps us to mentally defend from it. And whatever level we realize it at, we can explain to people on the same level what we seeing. I don't even discuss reparations because under no circumstances, if you start giving reparations, then you're just gonna be money shuffling all over the world, going back to the end of time.
Right.
Right, because at some point outside of America, everybody had everybody slaves. This has always been the land of the free, the home of the brave until 1492. And now it's the land of the captive, and the captive is called the slave since 1492. We've been in a perpetual state of warlock. All Big Mama banks was closed. Well, shut their system down. Now her banks is opening up. Right.
So, what about restitution?
It's the same thing. They can't restitute. They can't. The only thing they can do is give us what's ours, and then they don't got nothing.
Exactly.
If they give us what's ours, they don't got nothing. So then, what we gonna get from them? So you got two options. You can fight for reparations. That means fight for what you want, or you can fight what's rightfully yours, which is gonna surpass reparations by millions.
Facts.
Per individual, that is. Right? So we don't know. We just sit here and we follow the system, but the system ain't going nowhere but down.
Facts.
That's why they named all of the schools, because school is Sheol and Sheol is hell.
Yep.
Right? And now they teach your children how to act like demons.
Yep. Yep. So that So when we get right back in the groove of the publication, let me see, because we didn't get into this right here. Because we was going into the blood pacts. Yeah, the practice of the blood sacrifice.
I think did we go over this already?
Yeah, we already went through that. And then you got the well documented.
Okay, you see where it say the Phoenicians of Carthage?
Yeah, I see it.
Do you know where Carthage is?
Uh, that's like out there like
It's an old
Turkey.
Egyptian city.
Okay, okay.
Phoenician is a reference to that's one of the names before they was called Etruscans. They were called Phoenicians,
Facts,
and they was
facts.
the seafarers, right? And they was the ones who shopped this blood rituals around the world on the high seas using the admiralty and maritime jurisdiction. And this is why the Scottish Rite color is red.
Mm, that's a good connection right there.
One of the reasons.
That's
The
crazy.
other reason is because the Scottish Rite Freemasons usurped it from the daughters of Isis and
Mm-hmm.
replaced the nuns, right? They changed